Hi guys, welcome to this Cisco Kinetic EFM training. So today we are going to discuss about the data flows. So I'm going to show you how to get started with the data flows. So I'm going to show you the little things you need to know with the data flows to get you started properly. So my name is Johan Ahrens. I'm a network designer at Cisco Systems in Montreal, Canada. So just to get started, to point your browser to the proper place, you need to go to the IP address, of course, in HTTPS on the port 8443, and the page to call for is dataflow.html. So I'm just hitting enter over here. So here I'm going to have a login to provide, so it's going to be my username and password. So here we are logged in, and the things you're gonna see first is actually this tree, and this is actually the tree where every object is placed in the main broker. So you're gonna see data, you're gonna see data downstream, sys, upstream, and users. So downstream is everything that is connected below this broker. Upstream, this is anything that might be connected upstream to this broker. As this is the main broker, you won't see any objects below upstream. This is normal. Sys, this is everything that is touching the configuration of the system, and every variable you can monitor on the system. We are going to explore the /sys in the next videos. So today we are going to have a look at what's happening under downstream. So the default link you're gonna see when you install the broker from fresh is gonna be system. This is all the metrics from the system itself, and they're pretty much data flow and DQL. And here today we are going to explore what's happening under data flow. So data flow is actually another link. So this is where we are going to do all the programming, so we can actually structure our programs and our flow. A flow is like a program if you want to. So we can of course create folders to organize things a little bit. If you want to create new folders, just right click on data flow and then select create folder, type a name, invoke, and that's it. It's going to be created. So here I already have the training folder, so we are going to open this one, and then we are going to create a new data flow. So just right click on training, select data flow, and then type a name. I'm going to call it lab 03 because we already have 01 and 02. So invoke. So that was successful. Now to edit the data flow. So now the data flow is created. So to edit it, right click is not going to work. So there is delete, import, and export. This is to import a data flow from another broker, or to export your data flow to back it up, or to share your data flow with someone else's. To edit it, you need to click on this icon. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. So the data flow editor is going to open now. So there are a bunch of sections you need to know about, and I'm going to toss a little bit the video. So you're gonna see here all the blocks, and actually each item over here is called the block. You're gonna see the data flow editor. This is where we are going to program actually, and you're gonna see the properties over here. And actually the properties, this is the object, the properties of the object you're gonna see over here. This is also called inspector. So now to do a very basic programming, we are going to create two variables, and then to put the value from the first one to the second one. Very simple. So we are going to select string, and I'm going to drag this object in the data flow editor, and then I'm going to create another one. So you're going to see the first one is called string, and the second one is called string 1. And see, if I'm selecting a string 1 as an example, the inspector shows me the various properties that are available for this object. As this is just a variable, this is pretty much simple. So now the first thing that is bugging me a little bit is the name, because string and string 1, this is not very useful for me. So I'm going to reflect what is going to be used for, and I'm going to call it name. And the second one is going to be name from name. I'm going to use underscore and I'm going to hit enter. So keep in mind, don't use any spaces in those names because it's actually the reason being those objects are going to be placed in the tree over here. So if you are the spaces are not supported, and if I'm trying to use spaces, it's going to tell me this object or the name is already taken. So if you want to see your object under your data flow over here, you can open this one and you're gonna see the two objects you just created. But there was a little thing that is bugging me over here, is the fact one is named property. This is reflecting the name we just gave it to it, but the second one did not. And the reason being is because we didn't hit the right keys. So if we just hit enter over here, it's going to just change the name in the header of the block. That's it, and not in the tree. If we want to do this, we have to hit Control Enter. This is very important. You're gonna see the name has changed, and this is the little trick you need to know to properly name your blocks and to make sure the name is reflecting. And why this is important? This is important because actually we can reuse the value of those blocks, and we can reuse them from some other flows or some other part of the system. So this is important to give the proper name and to make sure the name is reflected under our data flow. On top of this, is going to be much more easier to troubleshoot when there was something wrong with your program. So now we are going to assign a value to this block. So I'm going to say this is my first name, this is Johan. So I can, if I want to bring the value from this one to the second one, I just have to click on the arrow over here and to bring it with the mouse over here, and you see the value has changed over here. So if I'm changing it again, I can say Johan Ahrens, this is my full name, hitting enter, and then both the name has changed. If I want to assign the value over here, you're gonna see there was an overlay, the blue overlay over the rectangle, and actually I cannot click in it and I cannot edit it. And the reason being is because actually the value has been assigned from another block, so there was a binding between the two. So if I'm getting back to the properties of the second object, if I'm bringing the mouse over here, you're gonna see there was a blue dot over here. That means there was a binding with another name, and you're gonna see here the mouse over. This is at parent name dot value, and this is the binding actually we have created with the arrow. If we want to unbind, we actually have multiple ways to do it. The first one being to hit unbind over here, and you see the arrow has disappeared and the overlay, the blue overlay, has changed. And I can say I'm going to change the value to Donald Duck as an example, and here I was able to edit the value. So now if I want to revert it back, I can just do it again, and actually the Donald Duck value has been erased with my name, and the binding is done again. The second way to do unbind actually is to double click on the arrow over here. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and you see it has disappeared, and the overlay, the blue overlay, has changed, has disappeared as well. So now I can again change the value for something else, Donald Duck. Alright, so this is done. So this is pretty much the very basic things we can do with this. So I'm going to get rid of this. In the next example, what we're going to do, we are going to read a value from a real sensor. This is a temperature sensor that is provided over an MQTT link, and then we are going to create a 5 minutes average. And I'm going to show you the way to do this. So now we have to navigate to the MQTT link, because this is where the data is going to be available for us. So we can open MQTT. This is the name of my MQTT broker where the values are published. So I'm going to open data, sensor, and I'm going to select one of the sensor. And here, this is just the way this sensor is structuring its data. And you can see here that there was the last piece of the tree, and I can select here the value over here. So when we click over here, the value of the object or the properties of the object is showing in this window over here. So if I want to use this, the value of this, I need to drag and drop the value in my editor. So this is what I'm going to do over here. So you can see here the plus, the green plus over here. This is because I'm dragging a value and I'm bringing this over my my data flow. So here you can see here, this is a JSON format, and this is what the object is telling me over here. This is formatted in JSON. So we need to extract this data. So we need to use a specialized block that is available in this list, but the list is exhaustive, and I'm kind of a person that is lazy, so I can use the search and can type a name or a piece of the name, and then the system is going to show me the appropriate block that is actually this piece of text is containing over here. So I can drag and drop my block. This is my JSON block. So I need to bring the value in my input over here. So this is what I'm gonna do. So here you can see my JSON string that is over here. And if I'm clicking on table over here, you're gonna see the table, actually the block has extracted all the value and placed the values in columns. So this is a readable format for me. But still, this is not on average, it is not usable for me. So the first thing I need to do is to extract the temperature column. So to do this, we are going to use an aggregation block. And here I can search for an aggregation. I can click over here, aggregation block, and I can select the output and bring the output in my next block, in the input. So now I'm going to actually create an extraction, and this block needs actually a parameter. This is the name of the column, which is temperature. So I'm going to click on table, select the name, copy, paste over here, and then you can see here the value is appearing. So this is working. So now to create my 5-minute average, what I need to do is to record all the values that are captured by the system. So this is live value, keep that in mind. So we are going to find a recorder. So if I'm typing recorder, I'm going to bring this block over here, and we are going to record some values. So as we have a value over here, we have to tell this block what to record, for long it needs to record. So it's actually expecting two parameters. One is going to create a table for us, so it needs to name the column. As we only have one variable, it can have multiple. You can hit plus and minus signs over here to create and to remove columns. So it needs a name, it needs of course a value. So I can bring a name, and this is going to be temperature, and then as we already have that information, I'm going to bring the information to the next block over here, and I'm going to bring the value over here, and you can see here temperature, it's actually starting recording. So I can click on table. You can see here the first thing this block is going to do is to actually assign a timestamp where the value has been recorded, and here we can see we have a second value that was recorded before. So this is kind of cool. This is working, but still this is not done yet. So the next thing we need to do is to adjust the time window. So we have two ways to do this. So the first way, this is actually the default one. We can tell it how many rows actually we want in the table. So the default is 1024, and once the 1025th value is going to come in, the value 0 is going to be erased. So this is a rolling window, okay? So this is not what we want to do. We want to have 5 minutes, and with the number of rows we cannot control this. So I'm going to tell it 0 over here, and the time window is expressed in seconds, and I'm going to tell it 300 seconds for 5 minutes. So here it's going to record for 5 minutes, and the values older than 5 minutes are going to be dropped. So now we need to create to calculate the average, and then we are going to use an aggregation block to do that task. So I'm going to bring another aggregation blocks in my flow. The output goes in my input, and we need to have the column name over here needs to be temperature as the second one. If we are lazy, we can actually say temperature. The value is coming from this block actually, because we already have it. So now we are recording this, but still this is the first value over here. You can see 23,187. This is the first one. This is not what we want. So we want to average. If we click on method, we have a bunch of options over here, and one being average. So here I have an average. But there was something else that is bugging me. I don't like that have that many decimals. This is just annoying. I want to format the number a little bit. So we are going to format the number. So we are going to use a format number block. So with this piece, we are going to tell it how many decimals we want to have in this number. So by default it's going to do the 2 decimals. We can control the format, and actually if I want, as an example, 4 decimals, I can enter as many zeros. I want 4 decimals, and you can see here we have 4 decimals, and here I want to have only 2. So I want to control it, so I'm going to select just 2 zeros. As an example, if I'm only selecting one number, all the decimals are going to be dropped, and we are going to use only 2. So here we have this, and then we have our recorder. So in the best practices, what I'm suggesting you to do is to always put the last value of your flow to a variable, just like this, and to name this last variable. And the reason being of this, and we're going to name it as average temperature. I'm going to say temp. And the reason being is if I need to change this block or whatever or the block, so I'm going to have to rename multiple objects, and then when we are updating flows or programs, if you want, this is tedious to do it multiple ways. So in that manner, if I want to get rid of, to change the way I'm doing my extraction, my flow, I don't have to change the name of this value, of this variable, and then, because actually this variable can be used elsewhere in the system. So now we have this, but I want to do more actually, because it's actually live data, and if the server is rebooting or because of maintenance or power outage, that kind of stuff, we are going to lose the value. So we are going to save the values in the database. So to do that, we have actually ParseStream, which is a SQL database. So actually we don't have to bother what column to create the format of the columns. Is it integer, is it real numbers, or whatever else is, we don't care. Actually the system is going to do it for us, and we are going to use the watch group to do that. So the first thing we need to do is to create a database for this. So we are going to right click on ParseStream, add database. We are going to call it lab03db. The host is going to be localhost, and the port is going to be 9310, because this is the port, or the local port. So user and password is going to be blank because there was no authentication, as this is the local server, and I'm going to hit invoke, and here, okay, operation is successful. The system has created this. We have our watch group, and with the watch group I'm going to create a new watch group. It is going to be lab03 wg, and I'm going to leave all the parameters as is. Invoke, this is successful, and then I can open this watch group, and here I can add a watch path. And what is a watch group actually? What is a watch path? Actually, this is really simple. We tell the system I want you to monitor this piece of information at this spot in the system, and each time there was a change of value, I want you to record that value in the system. And this is what the watch path is going to do. So the parameter the system is expecting us to provide is the path of an object. I want to record the average temperature we have just created. So to do that, we need to provide to find out what's going to be the path of an object, and then we can go back in Labo 3 in the data flow section. We can open data flow, and then we can select average temperature, which is this variable over here. And you can see here, each time I'm clicking on some object, we can see here the properties of the object that is showing up in the left hand side section, so I can see my value. So I can bring this value in my data flow, and I'm going to see the path of the object. And if the block is working properly, we should see the value over here, that the value that is showing here should be seen over here. And there was something wrong is here because I don't see it. And there was a slight bug when we do this, and actually there was some pieces of information that is missing on the tree, and then we are going to fix this. And you can see here we are at downstream data flow, and then we are on the training Labo 3, and then our object, average temperature and value. And actually what is missing is downstream and data flow, and I'm going to provide this. So if I'm clicking on this object, I'm here in the inspector, and there is actually all the properties. So if I'm clicking on the arrows over here, I have a nicer window to work with the value instead of working with this. So this is going to be much more easier to edit. So I'm going to add downstream data flow, and this is pretty much it. So if I'm clicking apply, and both it is working because the value is showing up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this again, and I'm going to select this path, copy, and I'm going to close this, and then we are going to get back to the what group we just created. So here we can add a path. Actually, we can select add path, just paste that information over here, just click invoke, and if we click on output table, is going to show us the success. The status is success. This is good. So here we can actually go back over here, and we're gonna see here this value, this icon over here. That means the operation was successful. So we can right click on this, we can select get history. So if you want to, you can select actually the time frame you actually want for your query. So here we're going to leave it as is. This is going to be good enough. So just click on invoke, and then your result is going to be stored in the table. You can click on this, and then as soon as we're going to have some next values recorded, we're going to see it. If you want to click, you can multiple click on invoke, and the table is going to show up. We can get rid of that piece of information. This is not useful anymore. So and that's it. We have created our recorder, and our recorder, the average is calculated, and it is stored in my database, and I can query very easily my database. Here you can see how easy it is to create a database. We don't have to bother about creating tables and columns and figure out the name of the columns and the type of information we're going to store in those things. We don't have to figure out what index we might be using for this. This is automatic, and that database is optimized for insert operations. So this is very fast. So I hope you find that training useful. Actually, the next training is going to be on DS links. The next one is going to be on the advanced programming. We're going to be talking about how to store the values in the system and to query the values in the system with the DQL language. So if you have any requests, or if you have anything you want to add or that is missing to that video, don't hesitate to comment. If you like the video, don't hesitate to hit like in YouTube. So thanks for watching, and see you next time on the next video.